Welcome everybody to the Adroit Journal issue 54 release reading. It's really a blessing to have you all here this evening, and we're so excited to feature seven brilliant writers tonight. They'll be reading for about 8 minutes each, and yeah, we're going to feature work from this newest issue that'll come out this Thursday. And then, yeah, this is our third issue of the year, and then we'll be wrapping up with our fourth issue in October. And little news with that, we'll be celebrating um, our Editor's Prize that's been newly announced this year and our Adroit Prizes. Um, so that will be our next issue, but this issue is just so stellar. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and want to focus on this one. So, yeah, please check it out Thursday morning. It's just so fantastic. We say it every issue, but just so happy to be in community with you all and to have such spectacular contributors across many different genres to be doing excellent work. And so we're just really excited to share it with you tonight. Okay, so beginning the night for us is going to be Rob Arnold. And I'll read Rob's bio here and then Rob will kick us off. Rob Arnold is a CHamoru poet, essayist, arts leader, and author of To the Unnamed, forthcoming from Graywolf Press in 2027. His work has appeared in The Rumpus, Plowshares, Hyphen, Gettysburg Review, Harper Pallet, and Solstice, among others, and has been anthologized in New CHamoru Literature and Na'huyong, an anthology of CHamoru literature. He lives in Brooklyn, New York, where he serves as executive director of Poets House. Rob, thanks so much for leading us off and adorning us with your brilliant poetry. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And, thank you everyone for coming. And thank you especially to the Adroit Journal for believing in these poems. These are challenging poems in a lot of ways. They exist at the intersection of state violence and family violence. So do with that what you will. And I'll read the first two poems I'll read are from the issue, and then I'll read a third poem that's been published elsewhere. This is To the Various Fathers. Often, when the weather is right, you can see across the bay to the far shore, to where as a young man you fumbled your way into the beds of first one woman, then many, and always that ache as your clothes came off, that regression and fear, those slowly guided fingers over scarred subdermis, this repulsion over the flawed, once flayed body of the year-old boy you were, who was, who still remains, confusion of, resemblance of, mistake of son to the various fathers who wanted you dead, from the first father who ravaged with abandonment, but the second father whose hate broke over the wife and kids, who heaved you through walls and into other houses, other names, other fathers who fumed with drink, whose anger would knot under the skin and grow each year into this waste reflected before you now. Father to none who are named, none who are breathing new life on this crust of a shore, this slightness of being, shedding of skins, this opening vein, which is your soul fucking inheritance. So be thankful. And this next poem is called Chimera. It's part of a sequence of poems that sort of investigate the monstrous chimera. Blood smear on 90 West, pulped bits of fur, white of a bone or jaw. God's form perfected in a blaze of tar, pale tendrils breaking through the earth to drag it all down. These ruthless enumerations, dead winter beaches. This broken goose folded over itself as though staring into its own wreckage. And you, the grafted sun, pastiche of old scars and self-hate, paralytic ideation snaking through the brain, how you would mime the gun against your temple, trigger the thumb, fingers splayed like a puppeteer's, pulling slick strings of unseeing brain matter, skull fragments, forgotten memories and dreams glistening from out the other side. You would do it casually, a joke, a way to punctuate a bad day.
پدر
Your dead sister not yet gone, the little tongues of despair, masquerades of light and creation, like stars being born in the throat. Were you to actualize the bullet, conjure the partitioned skull? Were you to allow the seconds to tick? How long the fleeting awareness? How long the eye to quick twitch, the aspen work of neurons? How long the black blood flickering cortex? How long until the mind went dark? And this last poem I'm going to read is I'm not able to read the comments as things go by, but I'm glad everybody's chatting. This last poem is called Psalm. It's in three parts. I'm just going to read right through the parts. It's a praise poem of the sorts. Psalm. Praise be sun. Praise be moon-shivered shore grass, channeled surf, pattern-cut glass. Praise your feet at the seething shore, siphoned sand. Praise delta churn. Praise Brackenstrand. Praise your stolen name, the state's mistake. Praise thundercloud and sunbreak. Praise be earth. Praise be sea. Praise this sharpened edge, gutted night, your arm plunged elbow deep in the scripted water, all that it keeps. Bless the unforeseen. Bless this eroded life. How water flowing past a rock slowly excavates the rock, slowly eviscerates the shoreline, makes then unmakes these tidal tributaries, this insecticide-laced channel your dog splashed along 6 months before he died of lymphoma. Drainage ditch number 1, the map will tell you later. Bless all hindsights, bless regrets, bless those meaningless paths you walked, thirsting towards home. Beauty in nightfall, beauty in striated dawn, in the detached wing of a crane left by the roadside, otherworldly storm of feathers orbiting like a halo. The Holy Spirit, you were told, ablutions of light and gold leaf laid by Renaissance artisans. Sacred light, divine wisdom, the spirit colors that flashed as your brother's arm crushed your carotid, as he squeezed until you convulsed and passed out, speaking in tongues while blood flowered in your brain. Was that a kind of death or a kind of living at the periphery? Was it a kind of love, the tightening headlock, a stain on the soul? Beauty in, beauty out. What you consume becomes you. Bless this beautiful bruise spreading just under the skin. Thank you.
Wow, Rob, thank you so much. Just incredibly powerful poems, and in the first, how that cascades in that, I think it's one sentence, in the various fathers, and having that crushing end, and the rhyme happening at the end of the last poem you read, and Chimera with those arresting or questions that fade into the dark and into the black. So yeah, thank you so much. Um, yeah, really happy to have you here, and thank you for reading. Yeah, everybody, thank you so much for your comments in the chat as well. One thing I didn't mention at the beginning, which the Adroit Journal commented in the chat. If you haven't already, if you could mute your audio if you haven't already, we'd really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, and our next reader is Gabrielle Calvocoressi. Gabrielle Calvocoressi is the author of The New Economy, forthcoming from Copper Canyon in October 2025. Gabrielle, welcome.
Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful to be here. Hello, everyone. Good evening. What a dream to get to read for the Adroit Journal, a journal I've admired just for so long, and to get to read with these extraordinary poets and with all of you here tonight. I just want to say that I am reading a fantastic book of poems right now, or I just read it like this weekend. This last weekend, My Perfect Cognate by Natalie Scenters-Zapico. I want to tell you right now, this book is just like, really, I was reading it today, and yeah, it's a great book. So it's such an honor to be with everyone. And this book is coming out September 29th, I think. That's a great book. I'm just going to read a couple poems, maybe one poem, see how the timing is. Also, here's the beach. I'm in the hotel lounge, so if some children run in and want to play Twister in the middle of this, that'll just be like an added part of our experience. I have a new book coming out, and it is, there's a lot of stuff going on in the book, but you know, much of it is about just being a bodily vessel with other bodily vessels. And it's interesting reading these poems here, because this was a place where a lot of this book got written, and also it was a place where I was very, very ill while I was writing a lot of these poems. And so what a remarkable thing to be here with all of you. And this is called Forgiveness, I Am Trying. And this will be in the upcoming issue. Forgiveness, I am trying. The boys kicked the door. They kicked the door again so hard the house shook. The boys called me sir, but not in a way that made me feel debonair. The boys asked if we had daughters because they wanted to come in the house and get some pussy. The boys told me to go fuck myself. The boys brought the larger boys to stand outside our house. I am trying to remember it's a time of forgiveness. I am trying to remember my body has never been my home. I wave and water the garden. I offer the flowers from the bed, the mint, rosemary. Sure, take a few tomatoes. Take whatever you can hold. Ms. Sylvia lived here for years and taught the whole block to garden. People would bring lawn chairs out to watch her tend it. Raymond told me she taught him everything he knew, said she grew snake plants 8 feet tall and brought them in for winter. His landlord kicked him out of the boarding house, and then he died of COVID. I heard from another neighbor who didn't remember Ms. Sylvia at all. I can't tell how long it was before someone lived here before we did. It was a while. Miss Edna said the house was empty and she'd been tired of babysitting, but still, it was someone's, it wasn't ours. Who planted the irises in the back? Is the pokeweed here because the birds carried it, or because it is good medicine and salad, so someone had a crop? From the middle of the earth to the firmament, I pray in the middle of the night to try to get everyone and all the animals and other breathing things. I include the water and the rocks, the owls who'd been here for as long as Miss Edna remembers, and then we had to take the willow oak down, and now they're gone. When the boys call me sir in a way that does not recognize my attention to my hair and to my bow tie, I try to remember it's Lent. When they kick the door, I try to remember every breath that's been here before me. C drove past, then pulled her minivan back to meet me and say how she grew up in our house next door. Her uncle died of AIDS there. Her aunt held him in her arms in the driveway. They'd been living as next-door neighbors for years. A new plant pops up that we never planted, and we think probably something Miss Sylvia planted that got shaded out by the oak. And now the light comes in, and now the bloom comes forward. What would Jesus do is a question I genuinely ask myself. Not a bumper sticker, a bodhisattva and young man prone to anger as much as he was prone to love. What would that young man do? As the boys kick the door that was not always mine, as the boys break the planters, as the boys call me sir in a way that makes my blood run cold. From the middle of my world to my firmament, I am trying. I'm not there. Thanks so much. I think that's my time.
Amazing. Gabrielle, thank you so much. Love what you have to say in that poem about vessels and thinking about what's here before us, what's remained, what's the violence that occurs among the forgiveness. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. And then continuing along with this theme of firmament, we'll have a story in this next issue that's titled The Firmament by Miklos Mattyasovsky, who is our next reader. Among other occupations, Miklos Mattyasovsky has rolled burritos, built decks, shelved books, sold 3D printers, directed business development at an AI institute, and ghostwritten for a living. He is currently an MFA candidate in fiction at Cornell University. He lives with his family in Ithaca, New York. His website is miklosm.com. Miklos, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks so much to the Adroit Journal for publishing my story and for having this tonight. Yes, as you heard, indeed, my story is called The Firmament, and I'm just going to read from the first section of that story. The Firmament. The whole time my brother Jimmy was building the firmament, his wife and I were lovers. We lived on the same 255 acres in the North Maine woods. Nevina took the road I'd cut along the brook between our houses. Jimmy created the firmament in the violently rainy spring of 2023, when the brook flooded its banks and covered the road. Nevina left her big red rain boots on my screened-in porch. I said we were lovers. We did make love a handful of times on the damp sheets by my open bedroom window. Her eyes, their irises as purple as her hair, seemed to change depth as I looked down at her on the pillow. She would close them for long stretches. She may have been thinking of Jimmy. But it wasn't very often that she and I went to bed, and sex wasn't the reason I knew we loved each other. Entire nights went by where we'd barely touch, where we'd talk and play pitch by firelight until dawn surprised us. We spoke often of Jimmy and his genius, and tried to understand how much of what we felt for him was love, how much was fear, and how much was awe. There was never any question of him knowing about our affair. He knew. Nevina bore my love to Jimmy each time she carried herself back through the mud. To me, she brought whatever shreds of his humanity the firmament had not yet claimed. He's almost done, she said to me on one of the first hot days of the year. She had just come in the door and was removing her mosquito netting. I asked, "Have you seen it yet?" "The firmament is not something you see," Nevina replied. "It's a world that you enter." "He's told you all about it," I said. "He's asked you to go?" "Yes, and he'll ask you too." Jimmy had to know I wouldn't do it. I looked at all technology down to the latch on the door of my porch as intrusive, whereas he understood computers as if they were an extension of his mind. We'd moved together to the woods because I thought it was about as far from the relentless digital as I could get, and Jimmy thought it was the only place godly enough to build the agent that would usher humanity into its next epoch. The road that Nevina walked between our houses led from one version of history to another. She insisted that I had a genius just as deep and complex as my brother's, but I could never imagine anyone talking about me the way she and I talked about Jimmy. I always trusted that she loved me, though, because I knew that loving Jimmy starved the soul and made it cry for a companion. I thought I understood her in a way he never could. As Nevina and I sat down to play pitch, she said, "Don't you want to hear about it?" I said, "Only if I can convince you not to go. We're all going to go eventually. Either that or die." "It's very important," I said, "that we all end up dead." Slack-jawed in the heat, she fingered her bug bites absent-mindedly while examining the cards in her hand. She wore a ribbed yellow tank top. The tips of tree branches reached for her head and heart. Because of their placement, they looked like a partial outline of her lungs within. The gnarled oak from which they grew had been inked down her left rib cage. I knew that its roots, which spread downward from her hip, ended in the heads of snakes. We'd spent so much time inside because of the rain, and Nevina was still winter pale. The oak branches showed as sharply as they would have if she'd been the moon. "I don't want you to die," Nevina said, "and Jimmy doesn't either. Come with us. The way Jimmy explained it, you'll see that you have to." She told me that I already existed in the firmament. Everything did, the trees and the rain and the insects. It was an exact copy of our world, with an avatar for each of us. You uploaded yourself in order to inhabit your avatar. Jimmy had called her to his office the day before and shown her how to do it. When she'd walked in, a box with no bottom lowered itself from the ceiling on a cable. "You shave your head clean and put it inside," Jimmy had explained, "and then you are extracted. From then until you die on Earth, you have 2 lives, one here and one up there. If that sounds difficult, don't worry. Life in the firmament is easy enough to manage. In fact, it's already going on without you." I said, "Something that only knows your head could never extract your whole." Nevina did not address my objection. She leaned over her cards. She said, "When you die on Earth, the self you have uploaded to the firmament goes on living. You inhabit your avatar eternally in a world just like this one, and the things you do there can happen on Earth if you want them to." I was sick and sad. Summer already felt like a fever, the air thick as blood. I said, "I know how Jimmy is, the way his skin draws tight across his skull, the way his words seem absolute. But you don't have to do it." "You know I do," she said. "We all do." "Why do you say that? This world may be damaged, but it's not ending." "But each of us have lives that end," Nevina said. "Who wouldn't change that if they could?" "Me," I said. "Me, the only one who truly loves you." She lifted her hand to my face and ran her thumb across my cheek. "Sweet thing," she said. "You can't know that." Pitch is a game for 4 people, 2 teams of 2, but Nevina and I played alone by dealing to the 2 spots where our teammates would be. We picked the face-down cards randomly from these hands. I named my teammate Brother Jimmy, and she named hers Husband Jimmy. They could not be relied upon, but occasionally exhibit moments of arcane brilliance. Brother Jimmy played the high card and won the hand, taking Nevina's jack. "Fucker got me," said Nevina. After the first game ended, she reached her hand into a canvas bag and withdrew an electronic hair clipper. She held it next to her face. Then she raised her eyebrows and flipped it on. The whirring of the small motor sounded like an infinite army of mosquitoes. She said, "Will you cut off all my hair?" I could have refused the request. I wanted to, and perhaps I should have. But she made her position clear. She was asking me to perform an act of love. The way she'd explained it, she could enter the firmament and remain on Earth. Maybe it wouldn't be so different from how it was now, I told myself, how part of her was with Jimmy and part of her was with me. I took the clipper in my hand. She sat in silence while I buzzed her hair down to nothing. Purple strands with light brown ends piled on the floor. I carried them outside. When I returned, Nevina spoke to me from the pale orb of her new head. She asked, "Do I look like Jimmy now?" "Don't be ridiculous," I said. "I must look like a skeleton," she said. "A very sexy skeleton," I replied. We touched each other more than usual. I massaged her feet while she stretched out on the couch. I cracked starchy peas from their shells and fed them to her one by one, her lips closing around my fingertips each time. She soaked 2 washcloths in water and then disappeared into the cellar to imbue them with ice. When she returned, we draped them over each other's faces. When we played pitch again, we leaned in close, keeping our cards against our collarbones and whispering our bids. After the sun had set, I asked her if she wanted to leave early in order to rest, but she shook her head no and leaned forward, laying her brow on my shoulder. I placed my palm on her naked scalp and tried to feel the buzzing of her brain. The forest pressed in on us, and the starry vault pressed down, squeezing Nevena's spirit back to Jimmy. All right, I'll stop there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Miklos. I'm so excited to, I've already read it, the whole thing, but I'm excited to read the rest all over again. Just really marveled by first line on my tensions with you and the intimacy in playing games and knowing different faces and selves of people and the intimacy of world building. Thank you so much. Our next reader is Jacques J. Rancourt. Jacques J. Rancourt is the author of Brock and Spector, Alice James Books, Novena, Pleiades Press. His poems have appeared recently in the New Republic, Image, the Kenyon Review, and Poetry, and he has received fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Wisconsin Institute for Creative Writing, and Stanford University, where he was the Wallace Stegner Fellow. He lives and teaches in San Francisco. Jacques, thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm going to read three poems from a manuscript I'm working on, which, amongst many things, is about the trajectory and dissolve of a long-term relationship. So the first one I'm going to read is called The Book of John. And something it references in the opening is that the four canonical gospels are each written about 30 years apart. And the further away they get from the time in which Jesus lived, the more and more divine he appears in each of the gospels. So it's called the Book of John. To write what has happened long after it happened is to approach the edge of myth. Take Jesus, for example. First, in the book of Mark, no resurrection, no miracles, just a man hung by human doubt. And by John, a God. By the time I realized my marriage was ending, it had already been ending for a while. In those final days, edged by fear of what we were leaving, we fucked fervently. Out of love, or disappointment, or some obligation to our past, or to say, please, don't forsake me. Whenever he asked, is this okay? I didn't answer. It was, and it wasn't. Only Luke writes about how Jesus, prostrate beneath an olive tree, pleading with God to change course, sweats bright beads of blood. From there, his account aligns with the others. The apostles asleep outside the garden, Judas lit by the soldiers' torches, waiting to sell out his kiss. Doesn't time always betray us? When I left the next morning with a backpack and 2 suitcases, it felt like a second fall from faith. The morning, gray and damp as the one we first met outside the cemetery, our macabre rendezvous spot, where the higher the richer they're dead. When I saw him there and called out his name, he my cheek. Despite the decades that spanned them, all 4 gospels stake the same claim, that in order to heal a man, Jesus kneeling beside the leopards, the crippled, the dead, placing his hands upon them, commanding them, get up, you must touch him. And so this next poem is called Spring Quartet, and it's in 4 sections and depicts 4 different springs and 4 different periods of life. 1. Music throbs like a heart underwater. Before the bathroom mirror, The men on Molly lift up their arms to compare their pit hair. When you click close the door, the party mutes to a murmur. Outside, stars, black crickets boundin'. You look to see that no one is watching. It's nearly too much, the joy of you. When you kiss me, I am pulled skin. 2. Treacherous to cherish this. Black vines yanked from the dirt, the overgrowth giddy with sunlight. We act out the motions of two people in love. I'm greedy for change. In the empty park, the colonnade leans its blunt shadows north. Through your hair, I run my hand while we sit on granite slabs, our soaked Speedos leaving behind wet hearts. I ought to love what I already have. 3. At Acadia's frayed edge, we become sick. How does this happen in a place like this? I tell you things I would not say sober. Bees thieve pollen from the throats of angels' trumpets, but this cannot last. God makes nearly nothing inextinguishable. Tonight, when I smack a mosquito with a novel against the wall, behind the bright smear of someone else's blood. 4. It's nearly summer. I'm nearly glad, at last, to be alive. When you breed me, I carry you through the harshly lit aisles. When we make love, we hear the upstairs neighbors make love over us, almost in rhythmic unison. Plum blossoms outside fallen steadily as a spring blizzard. 100 million copies of you. I didn't know I still had the capacity. And I'll end with this poem, which is called Observer Effect. Thanks again for having me. Like cotton candy, like something made of pure sweetness, whose only purpose is to be pure sweetness. How our dog's cancer looked when exposed by the X-ray. If seeing changes the behavior of light, here in the waiting room, I am seeing my life at last. A new love leaving a voicemail I won't listen to for days. My not yet ex-husband, whom I loved for the past decade, sitting beside me through our dog's final hours. Hour, a word so easy. When the vet tech returns, I rest my hand on the familiar knee. When I leave out those sliding doors to walk back alone to my new studio, I leave into a dawn so young the street lamps are still, and the light and sources of light splits my shadow in two opposing directions. Thank you.
Chills. Thank you, Jacques. Those images of the diverting shadow and are a word so easy dissolves like sugar in the mouth. The contrast of those, and also the other in Spring Quartet, where there's the capacity for shame and loving what we have in that poem too. Thank you very much. Our next reader is Natalie Scenters-Zapico. Natalie Scenters-Zapico's book is My Perfect Cognate, forthcoming from Copper Canyon in September 2025, so very soon. Winner of Yale University's Wyndham Campbell Prize, her work has been supported by the Lannan and Poetry Foundations. She teaches in the undergraduate and MFA creative writing programs at the University of South Florida. Natalie, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. I feel really humbled to be with so many amazing writers and to be in community with all of you tonight. So thank you so much. And thank you, Adroit, for bringing us together in this evening and our words in this issue. It's really very special and really beautiful. So thank you. I feel very lucky. I'm going to read 3 poems and end with a poem that's going to appear in this issue of the Adroit Journal, and all 3 are new, so they're all from this book that's coming out. I'm really nervous, but excited to share them with you. And like the first section of the book have to do with motherhood and new motherhood. And so I guess I'll just start. So this is: doctors pull a buoyant body from me and say, "Nurse." I drape my son across my plastic taped incision and let him grind my nipples with his Epstein pearls. People ask, "Is it true you couldn't birth your son between your legs in a barn?" I say, "It hurts between my legs just talking about it." The moon smiles a kid-friendly grin, and I wonder which finger Mary used to break her God's latch. I'm no Mary. I chose to have a baby in what my doctor calls a geriatric age, called me incubator. Like Mary, I can't stop crying. My doctor says, "Call this number if you get the baby blues." I pull a cartoon smile from ear to ear. In the dream feed, I hear a navy blue tired head. The voice is blue. It calls blue. It blue calls, blue calls. No one wants to read about a mother. On a walk with the hear about the mother unless it's from the child. I swaddle my son in a blanket so blue it becomes a river, blue unlike the brown rivers of my childhood, the brown rivers of my childhood which swallow mothers and their children under currents woven in blue blood. From the blue river I've lights that tint his room blue. A blue voice calls me. It calls blue, calls blue. Don't write about becoming a mother. Don't write about being a mother. Don't write again, you mother. The pewter moon's eyebrowed guise circles a picture, and I know we will never fully know one another. Message after message asking, "How is the breastfeeding going?" Let me tell you, not great, not great at all. Everywhere advice to make the milk come, plums, fenugreek, blessed thistle. This morning, each stream of water falling from my shower head was a knife ready to gut me. The pewter moon smile wants to eat me whole. Online, strangers tell me to love my postpartum body. They say, "You are tiger, you are zebra." I am to return to the numb feeling of the surgical theater, the sound of the doctor mispronouncing my full name. In the mail, a medical bill worth more than a pickup truck arrives. It arrives before the state gives my son a social security number, a birth certificate, a sign of arrival. Even at my most animal, I am the price of my bearded belly, the price of my crying breasts, the price of being split, excavated, vacuumed, and stapled shut. And this last poem is the one that will appear in the Adroit Journal, and I'm really happy that it found a home here. Matrescence. I stop my feet at the Muscovy ducks that waddle in my path. and push my hair high, high into a yellow claw. Who throw rocks at the crib I keep hidden between my eyes. To the boys, I am just another absent-minded mother. The fathers here use 20-gauge shotguns to kill the sin. No one would ever guess that, like a duck, I bit a man once for sport. Winner. I bit a man for sport like a father shoots a duck with a shotgun in the evening rain. Send the fathers out to hunt me too. Tonight, the sky is a hell I long to plunge into, and earth is a heaven I hope to scale like a wall. I chew my loneliness like a Muscovy duck does a slow life. The crib between my eyes to feel the pressure of living. And went under the knife for, and I feel guilty, very guilty, for being a mother alone on this walk without her son. Thank you.
I'm so excited for your book, Natalie. Thank you. So moved by these cascading and turning definitions. You'll see this on the page in the poem in the issue. And I'm excited to see these on the page in the book as well, and how we get turning definitions of mothers and blue that combat documentation and narrative. Um, the line in the last poem, some people are talking about in the chat too. Earth is a heaven I hope to scale like a wall. Um, Amazing. Thank you so much. All right, our next reader is Diane Seuss. Diane Seuss is the author of 6 books of poetry, most recently modern poetry, Graywolf Press 2024, which was a finalist for the National Book Award and the Griffin Poetry Prize. Frank Sonnets, which came out with Graywolf Press in 2021, was the winner of the Los Angeles Times Book Prize, the National Book Critics Circle Award, and the Pulitzer Prize. Seuss is a member of the Academy of American Poets Board of Chancellors. She was the 2021 Guggenheim Fellow and the recipient of the John Updike Award from the American Academy of Arts and Letters. Seuss was raised by a single mother in rural Michigan, which she continues to call home. Her 7th collection, Althea Poems, is forthcoming from Graywolf Press in 2027. Diane, welcome.
Thank you very much. Am I hearable?
You are with me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thank you first to the Adroit Journal, to Heidi, and thank you so much, Chris, for your great comments on the poems and stories. And also, thank you to all the readers for their vulnerability, openness, and attention to craft. It's really an honor. So thank you very much. I will do my best to read the poems that are in the magazine, but I will. The first poem is called The World of Underpants. The world of underpants was strange to her, as was the world of fathers and the world of mothers who seemed to wear aprons, and family trees, though trees she understood, and the tavern by the lake, and Pat with a black eye who lied that she was kicked by a horse. Althea understood that she was the product of something big, akin to the sky, but not the sky, akin to the field, but not the field. She arrived like the last creation from an old assembly line. She came with no instruction manual. No one knew what she seemed to have no utility or purpose, like a stone or a bone of an extinct creature the world sees as having been minor but monstrous. The majesty of the grain elevator, and in the bank barn built profound into the hillside, rabbits in their hutches, the wrestling of ear against ear, the swampy surreptitiousness of men leading double lives, triple shots of fireball. She cracks open mint lifesavers in the dark bathroom, watching them spark inside the cave of her open mouth. The word for that, triboluminescence, the glamour of the freight train rolling through. She got quiet, then quieter. People sensed disease, something female from the waist down. But it was not disease. Please, she said in her mind. She hoped they were mind readers. Stop monitoring me, she said in her mind. She hated being monitored. And the noise of all their hypotheses. She preferred the neutrality of trees. At night, in the wind, trees creak. Tree to tree, it is kind of a joke, like an old woman saying she has creaky bones while she is busy recreating the world. Her voice, like the voice of a witch on a children's record, or the creaking of the floorboards under the feet of a girl sneaking out in the dark of night to pee in the weeds. She called them in her mind by their names: Althea, Queen Anne's lace, Dropseed. Strange back then, alone, squatting beneath the owl-filled trees. And this is the last one. Not face down in the mashed potatoes, but in bed with his nightcap mashed down over his toupee. Death came to him that way. They sprayed the corpse with apple blossom perfume and set him up in a pine box in the big window in the front room next to the piano that defied tuning. All the while, his wife made soap from lye and ashes and milked the pitiful, nameless cow and poured her thin, warm, almost blue milk into the tin cream separator. It was said the wife had one pleasure, her flowers, she called them. That same summer, the cherry tree was a central figure in the epic tale of the preteen daughter shimmying once onto a weak branch from her bedroom window. When the first bone healed, she tried it again and broke the other. Her arm was never the same. But who among us is ever the same when the lid is nailed shut on summer? Thank you.
Diane, thank you so much. I really felt how you adulthood and adulthood as well, and like the scale that's happening within that, and the spectacle, the presence of sound, and she got quiet. Um, hypotheses that occur along with that. Really marvelous. Thank you so much. And our last reading for tonight will be by Heidi Seaborn, who's reading work by Martha Solano. I'm going to read Martha's bio. Martha Solano was the author of Acre Books, September 2025, about her journey with ALS. Other poetry collections include Last Train to Paradise, New and Selected Poems, which came out with Saturnalia in October, or will be coming out with Saturnalia in October 2025. This one we call Ours, Lynx House Press 2024, winner of the 2023 Blue Lynx Prize. Gravity Assist, Saturnalia 2019, Reckless Lovely, Saturnalia 2014, and The Little Office of the Immaculate Conception, Saturnalia Books 2011. Her awards included North American Review's James Hurst Poetry Prize and the Cincinnati Review's Robert and Adele Schiff Award. Heidi, thanks so much for reading from your friend Martha's work and honoring her tonight. Heidi, could you unmute, please?
I was so busy muting everyone else. First of all, thank you.
Thanks for doing that double work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. And thank you to our contributors that read tonight and to so many of you who are here joining us. It is an extraordinary issue. We are honored to be able to read your work and to spend time with it and to curate it into issue 54. And I am blessed, I have been blessed in my life to count Martha Solano as a friend and a comrade in poetry. And I miss her dearly. And I'm going to try and get through these two poems that are in our new issue. Can't complain. I mean, at least it's not 106 degrees. At least I'm not hearing a loud popping sound in my knee, followed by swelling. I had no idea those pops are referred to as pathological noise. What a great name for a band. But seriously, I'm good. Hoping for the same with you. No aphids in your begonias, no sore senses or columns of creation pain. I hope your cupboards shine like Orion, that humor hangs in your closet with the raincoats, that you haven't been ejected from the room of ineffable calm, that your days are more freesia, less filth. I heard on the radio yesterday we need to cut emissions by 45%, like now. But it turns out most countries are having trouble cutting them by 3%. Whoo-wee. It sounds like 2030 is going to be soggy. We'll all be sporting flame retardant flight dresses for the wildflowers I doubt will be canceled. What shoes pair well with my drenched pot roast shift? I was thinking a strappy mountain high sole with an electrically spinning heel. Also a vibrating instep. At the Not Prom, we'll swap our favorite pre-mass extinction tales, awake until the stars extinguish like wicks. But enough about me. What will you be for Halloween? I was thinking I'd be a belly dancing zombie queen, stand at the door with a bowl of Skittles, evoking terror in the beautifully brave, beatifically brave come knockers. Here, let me pin that corsage. I always loved orchids. Too bad yours got scorched in its little foray to a planet some idiots think we can live on. Oh, space. Oh, to fall into the arms of a gap of blue. Not that I'm blue, but really, I hope you're well, that your wee hasn't cracked, that your bones aren't talking. I hope every other minute is a sparkler that never burns out. And now there are pleasures. There are thousands of pleasures, thousands of ways to not be dissatisfied, to not embrace the terms of anxiety. One of them is to consider the length of a giraffe's tongue, 21 inches. Another is to go in pursuit of blackberries only a person in a boat can reach. It's important to be responsive to tails and ears, to limbs that allow you, domestic cats and gazelles, to lope toward ladybug espresso or a rat, away from a charging hippo. It's better to light a sparkler than to whine, right? It is better to thank your body for its heels, its ability to heal. That although they are dreadlocked and devoted, you are not a Bergamasco sheepdog. To avoid a sort of manic obsession with less than, stare at the pinking clouds longer than seems appropriate, way longer. To gloss your brain, revel in the long ago-ness of your past. Focus mostly on the gigantic peach present that really does take up most of the fridge. When you spot a plate of envy, take a sniff, decide to pass. Your eyes are infinite. So are the number of beetles in the tropics. Choose your path like you're choosing a stallion. Pick carefully through the leaves of spinach. Careful not to harm the baby slugs. You are that baby slug. You are that minute that sometimes feels like an hour and sometimes feels like a nanosecond. Gather up all your dusty doubts. Put them in the Ridwell bin. Know they will be recycled into something useful, like a park bench. Kneel at least once a day, preferably at dusk, preferably in front of someone or something that sustains you. A bed of bok choy, a cantaloupe, a trembling elm. Thank you, Martha.
Yes. Thank you, Martha, and thank you, Heidi. And yeah, thank you, Martha. I really appreciate these poems and the joy that sustains within them, while acknowledging truth telling and the humor within truth telling and questions and really all the words within these that point us toward right directions and in ways that we should be considering. Um, yeah, so much beauty and bravery with there. All right. Oh, pause at the end of these, just like soak it in. I'm like, oh man, this has been a really beautiful time to share with everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, for reading today, and thank you for sharing this night with us. We are so thankful to have you all, and thank you for yeah, your attention and putting all these great comments in the chat and just encouragement. And yeah, want to also thank our contributors for issue 54. I see some of y'all here tonight. We're really thankful for y'all. This issue would not happen without y'all, obviously, and it's just incredible. And I've just been really honored to be looking at it in these past couple months to put it together. So, yeah, thank you for your work and for everybody here for listening and championing each other on. So again, make sure to check out our next issue that'll be releasing on Thursday morning, so a couple days from now, at the adroitjournal.org. I always have to say that .org instead of .com. That's important. And yeah, we hope to see you again at our next reading at the end of October. And yeah, wishing you all well. Take care.